It's Mike Bear with Free Speech Media. What brings you out today?
Well, we've been coming out for the last 3 weeks. We're here to spread awareness about these corporate hotels where people are being held illegally as far as our charter rights and human rights are concerned. And we're trying to spread awareness and also maybe reach some people in the hotel, and hopefully they'll get a hold of us. We can inform them of their rights, and they can make an informed decision as to whether they want to leave the hotel, which they have every right to do, or whether they're going to choose to stay. But the fact of the matter is, I feel like they have absolutely no informed consent, and the idea is to let everybody know.
So the government officials you believe, are misleading these people about their rights? They're telling them that they legally have to do this, otherwise they'll be arrested. Are they actually going to be arrested? Like, there was a gentleman who actually left and nobody did anything. They left him alone. So,
absolutely.
So are they actually going to enforce this so-called law or not?
It's a very large point. Essentially, 2 points I can bring up is that all of these bylaws and restrictions are against our charter rights and our human rights. And the other is that police are legally allowed to lie when they are in their work.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. Well, folks, I'm back at the infamous Radisson Airport Hotel on Dixon Road. We have some protesters congregating, and compared to our visit here last Thursday, there are a few subtle differences. For one thing, there is now a rope here, and here on this pylon, here's something new: private property, no trespassing. Well, as the saying goes, now you tell me, because folks, as you may know from a previous video, the Toronto police came to my house yesterday. I don't even live in Toronto, and 2 police officers paid a second visit to my humble little home in Richmond Hill to serve me with a trespassing ticket. And as I pointed out in the video, this to me looks like a hotel open to the public. You know, our first visit here in January, we were told by somebody at the hotel called Jamie that the hotel was closed, and when I said why, he said it was under construction. And yet, do you see any construction workers? Do you see any construction equipment? On the contrary, I see civilians in the windows. So clearly it is not closed to the public. But the question arises, why would you trespass me for committing, I don't know, the egregious act of practicing journalism? But that's how they roll in John Tory's Toronto. So at least now they've done a little MacGyver here of bolting a private property no trespassing sign, but it sure wasn't there last week, and we have the video footage to prove it. So I would imagine that in any moment there'll be police. In fact, I think those might be the police that showed up to my house yesterday. They were driving a black Dodge Caravan, which I guess I should be grateful. One of the vehicles that came last week was a Ford F-250 Super Duty pickup truck. Why would the police need that? Or maybe they tow around the mounted unit. You'd need a truck like that. Here we have Paladin Security, or as I like to call them, Mayor Patrick Brown's Praetorian Guard. These guys are usually in Brampton guarding the hockey rinks where Mayor Brown and his buddies from Barrie illegally play hockey. So yeah, once again, folks, your tax dollars hard at work. In any event, enough about me. I'm here to talk to the protesters who are making a statement, because clearly this is a quarantine hotel. People are being put here, and apparently they're being lied to by the authorities. They're being told they have to stay there, when in fact you know that they don't. They can just leave. But there's nothing against the law, I suppose, of police and government officials lying to people. And so it is, we have people essentially being held against their will. Gee, do you think maybe the cops would be interested in such charges as, I don't know, kidnapping, forcible confinement? No, those are true crimes. So we're going to see how the day pans out. Hopefully the mounted unit won't show up like they did with Adam Skelly, because we do have truly peaceful protesters here, and I want to hear what they have
Almost
to say.
11 months we've been gathering, we've been hugging, we've been dancing in the streets, and I'll tell you this, I'm still not sick.
You know, in theory, I've been covering so many of these protests. I've gone to long-term care facilities. I've gone to the airports. I think technically I should be dead, but here I am talking to you on this beautiful sunny day.
Absolutely. And I keep questioning this, if it's about supporting our most vulnerable, because yeah, there are some who are very vulnerable to COVID. Same as the flu every year. There are deaths of the flu every single year. And so why are our resources not going to protect these people? Why is it that we can build how many COVID facility centers and yet no new hospitals, but we're worried about overwhelming our hospitals?
And you know, it's funny too, so many of these Radissons for some reason are being turned into these quarantine COVID hotels. And when you look at who owns Radisson, it's a state-owned company by China. And it's, I don't know, kind of perversely ironic that the country that unleashed trillions and trillions of economic damage upon the world is now profiting by quarantining Canadians here in Toronto. How do you make sense of that?
No, you don't. There's only so many coincidences before you cannot call it a coincidence anymore, you know? And this is not a coincidence that this is happening.
One last question. I see there's only 2 police in that ominous-looking Dodge Caravan. Last week, we saw maybe about 7 or 8 police vehicles. There was almost as many police here as there were protesters. Do you think that was a move to intimidate your group?
Absolutely. I think they were also here to intimidate you more than us. I think they were here for you, David. But it's absolutely an intimidation tactic.
Well, they succeeded. I mean, they didn't intimidate me, but as you know, folks, I got this trespass ticket. They served me at my house yesterday. So what is this selective shutdown of certain media that we're seeing in Canada, too?
Yeah, because they're targeting the medias that are supporting free speech. They're targeting the medias that are unbiased, that are going out and reporting what's actually happening, not just what supports the narrative.
I think you're right, sadly, and free speech should be just that. Regardless of your opinion, your point of view, your affiliation, you should be able to say that. But right now, we live in a land of cancel culture, don't we? And we see the agents of the state, the police, actually enforcing cancel culture. Did you ever imagine you'd live in a Toronto like that?
Never, never. And I refuse to leave this for my children and my grandchildren. I refuse to.
All right. Well, you take care of it. Government and even police from lying. So they've been told you must stay here, when in fact they can just walk out on their own accord. But I guess they're trusting their jailers.
I guess so. And Justin Trudeau just announced from the last time we were here that they were going to slow this process down, but it seems like they still have people inside these isolation facilities. So once again, we got more lies. And we can see them, they're evident. Every day we're hearing more and more rules. Everything changes every day. And it's like, this is just like totally wrong.
Well, do you trust anything that comes out of the mouth of Prime Minister Trudeau these days?
Not really. I don't think so. I think we need new governments. That's what I think we need. I think Justin Trudeau needs to climb off his pedestal, and we need to find a new Prime Minister.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Hey, Stephanie, so I heard you made contact with somebody. Was that somebody in the hotel talking with you right now?
Sean,
Okay.
Sean in the hotel, who's been here since February 2nd.
Wow.
He had a negative COVID test. He was rushed back from Europe under Trudeau's recommendations. He spent extra money on a plane ticket to book a ticket and come home straight away. He had a negative COVID test, and he had plans to isolate in an Airbnb property. This was not sufficient enough for the airport, as he lives with someone who is older, and therefore his father doesn't want him coming home without following the 14 days. So he had made arrangements to go to an Airbnb on top of having a negative COVID test already, and he is in here. He says,
why aren't they accepting the negative COVID test? I don't understand.
I don't understand. In his words, he said, whether your test is negative or positive, you still have to quarantine. Everybody still has to quarantine, which makes absolutely no sense.
Well, what's the point of getting tested then?
Absolutely. He proved that he is not ill, and yet he is still being treated as though he is ill. He went out of his way to make sufficient arrangements to be in a home by himself where he can isolate by himself. Yeah, he also told me this story about how he needed medications and he was not able to get them. He wasn't able to call shoppers and have them delivered, that they didn't accept this.
Now, Stephanie, I'm assuming you told them you're free to walk out. You have people here that will give him a ride home or wherever he wants to go. What did he say to that offer?
His fear was that he didn't have anywhere to go. That today, in this moment, he didn't have an Airbnb set up and he couldn't go to his home because of his elderly father. And he said if he had known we were going to be here and if he had made arrangements, that he would be walking out today.
Did he describe the conditions of the rooms in which they're staying?
Yeah, I asked him a bit about it. He said it feels like prison. He said he's not allowed to leave the room. He said that they specifically moved him. They moved them from rooms. They said that there was something wrong with the water and he was moved from his room. And he directly said that this is because we come here. That he believes this is because we come here.
So they didn't like the bad PR optics of people in the west-facing rooms, indicating like their hands were cupped, that they're being held against their will. So they moved them away to a more inconvenient camera angle.
Right, absolutely.
Wow.
He confirmed it himself that he was changed rooms today.
So the bottom line, I think I overheard you saying you're here till 5-ish, and if he changes his mind, you've got a ride for him, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
My pleasure, thank you. And have they been telling you these last 14 days that you cannot leave? Said that today has been the most beautiful day of his 14-day isolation and seeing us all out here. And he thanks us all so much for being here. Vic came in from Mexico. He took 2 negative COVID tests, one when he first arrived, one before he got on a plane. Both came back negative. He also had made arrangements for an Airbnb, to stay in an Airbnb to do his own self-isolation. Yeah, the airport did not accept this, so he was brought here. He is a peace officer of the courts, and in this, he doesn't want to risk losing his job if he walks out today when he's so close to being done.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Vic said he's going to call me tomorrow, and he will be standing out here joining us next week.
Nice!
Yeah,
Also, the other guy, what he say with the move, as much as you heard, they moved him because of us, right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
guy spoke you earlier with.
Can I send him my phone number
He
from your
called
number?
from the Radisson.
He calls from the Radisson. Oh, I can't text him my number. I told him I text him my number. They sound like prisoners. That's what they sound like. Yeah, I just spoke with Vic from Mexico.
Okay.
Vic is on his last day of quarantine here. He had a negative PCR test before he boarded the plane. He took another negative PCR test when he arrived in Canada.
So 2.
2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me about the fact that when he arrived here, he was given strict guidelines that he cannot leave. On his 7th day here, he said that he was offered to take another PCR test, and if this one also comes back negative, he could then leave. This didn't make sense to him. He said, I don't want to do that to my body again. I've had 2 in the last 7 days. I don't want to do one again. Tomorrow he is released, and he is a peace officer of the courts. And so in light of not jeopardizing his career and his job, he has decided to stay in there for his last night.
Wow.
He stated that today was his best day of quarantine and seeing us all out here, and he also said that he will be joining us next week.
That is amazing. So not only is he eventually going to be liberated, but he's going to go from being a prisoner to being a protester with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he said it brightened his whole day to see us out here, and it feels nice to hear that.
Well, that's fantastic. And did he indicate how many people, Stephanie, are in the hotel?
I didn't ask. That's a good question. I can ask this the next time.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll let you carry on with your work. There's looks like there's plenty of people to be freed here, and you've got the phone number on billboards, and you've got cars standing by. So good for you, and you stay warm.
Thank you.